Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. We'll just start in 1 minute as everybody starts trickling in. Thank you so much for joining us today. All right. So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us for today's webinar on tracking progress on monitoring, evaluation, and learning for national adaptation plan processes. My name is Geneva. I'm a policy analyst at the NAP Global Network and a co-author of the MEL in NAP Process report. I'll be moderating today's session. With increasing momentum on operationalizing the global goal on adaptation and the adoption of the 59 indicators at COP30, understanding how countries are monitoring and evaluating adaptation is more important than ever. So this is a great and timely opportunity to examine how MEL considerations are integrated into national adaptation plans, or NAPs. So to get us started, if we can go to the next slide. Can we go to the next slide? Thanks. Here are a few housekeeping points. Today's session will be ideally 60 minutes long, including a question and answer section at the end. Please feel free to say hello and introduce yourself by typing your name and affiliation in the chat box. We'd love to know you. And we'll be recording this session and share the video and slides with the participants as a follow-up. One thing to note is that we offer simultaneous translation, that's two-way, for French and English. So you can click on the interpretation tab to follow in your preferred language, whether it's English, French, or Spanish. If you have any questions, comments, or technical issues, please let us know in the chat box and our colleague will be glad to assist you. Next slide. Today's webinar is brought to you by the NAP Global Network. We were created in 2014 to support developing countries in advancing their NAP processes and help accelerate adaptation efforts around the world. To achieve this, the network facilitates South-South peer learning and exchange, supports national level action on NAP processes, and we aim to generate, synthesize, and share knowledge on effective, inclusive national adaptation planning. So today we have an exciting group of speakers that will speak on the integration of effective monitoring, evaluation, and learning in NAP processes. Christelle Monpetit is Senior Policy Analyst, Monitoring, Evaluation, Learning, and IVRA for Adaptation with the NAP Global Network Secretariat, and the lead author of our recent publication, Tracking the Progress of Monitoring, Evaluation, and Learning Mechanisms in NAP Processes report. She will be presenting the key findings and insights of the report. Next, we'll be hearing from government representatives from Haiti, Peru, Thailand, and Zambia on their country experience in developing and implementing effective MEL systems for NAP processes. So we have a very exciting agenda coming up, and we have very tight time. But before we dive straight into the presentation, we've just prepared a short quiz with 2 questions on the trends that we have observed in our analysis of the integration of MEL. So if we can launch the poll to get the audience to answer 2 quick quiz questions. So now you should be able to see the answers to the question. The answer to the first question is B, adaptation process indicators, which is found in 47% of NAPs we have reviewed. They measure the enabling conditions and institutional arrangements that support adaptation. And for the second question, the answer is C, 55 out of 62 NAPs. 89% of NAP documents contain a dedicated section on MEL. So thank you, everybody, for participating in our quick quiz. Now, Christelle will help us dive into these findings and share what these mean in more detail. Christelle, take it away.
Thank you, Geneva. So before we dive into the findings of our report on tracking progress on MEL for national adaptation plan processes, I would like to walk you through a little bit of background. Next slide, please. So first, how do we define MEL for NAP processes? Adaptation is a learning process, and the aim of a MEL system is to provide a structured approach to monitor progress, evaluate results, and facilitate learning for NAP processes and their activities to effectively achieve their intended results. And the different activities that countries undertake on their monitoring, evaluation, and learning are closely connected. And there is a need, we feel, to change perspectives about the role of M&E towards learning as well as accountability. Next slide, please. And so why are MEL systems so essential for NAP processes? Well, national MEL systems lay the foundation for effective, inclusive, and transformative adaptation processes. They enable us to understand the effectiveness of NAP processes, to strengthen equity, to improve adaptive management, as well as mutual accountability, to enhance efficiency, as well as to help mobilize domestic, international, public, and private finance. Next slide, please. And it's important to say that national MEL systems also play a critical role in informing collective progress on adaptation. So the UAE Framework for Global Climate Resilience sets a target that is specifically focused on MEL, in that by 2030, all parties will have designed, established, and operationalized a system for monitoring, evaluation, and learning for the national adaptation efforts, as well as have built the required institutional capacity to fully implement this system. Next slide, please. So here it is for just to, set the context a little bit. So what we did at the NAP-GN is that we recently conducted an analysis of 62 multi-sectoral NAP documents that had been submitted to the UNFCCC as of September 2025. And this analysis revealed how developing countries are integrating MEL systems across the iterative adaptation cycle. What does this analysis find? It found that MEL is widely acknowledged as a core component of NAP processes. However, that this acknowledgement does not always translate into comprehensive implementation planning. So here you can see 100% of the reviewed 62 NAP documents included MEL considerations, and 89% had dedicated MEL sections. So there is universal recognition, but as you will see in the next slides, there is variable implementation. Next slide, please. So here are a few findings, selected findings from the report across the 4 phases of the adaptation cycle. So in the IVRA phase, we found that only 48% of NAP documents link climate risk assessment, CRAs, to MEL systems, using CRA outputs as baseline data and risk-based indicators. In the planning phase, we found that 52% of NAP documents mention logic models, while 66% list specific indicators for monitoring adaptation progress. In the implementation phase, we found that 87% of NAP documents state that their MEL system is under implementation, implemented or planned for future rollout. But however, that only 39% of these NAP documents include dedicated roadmaps for MEL system implementation. In the MEL phase, we found that 73% commit to evaluation adaptation actions, but only 8% specifically mention midterm evaluations. 37% commit to reporting for national purposes, and 38% through UNFCCC instruments, of which 15% specifically mention ADCOMs and 20% BTRs. So as we can see here with these selected findings across the 4 phases of the iterative adaptation cycle, there is universal MEL recognition, but there's significant gaps that remain across the 4 phases. And I saw a comment jump in the chat about IVRA. So yes, it stands for Impact, Vulnerability, and Risk Assessment Phase. Thanks. Next slide, please. We also found that critical gaps remain in gender and social inclusion. So we found that 45% of NAP documents report the development or the planned development of gender responsive indicators. That is, indicators that account for gender dimensions. We found that an even lesser number, 29% of NAP documents, mention indicators that systematically disaggregate data by sex and other relevant dimensions. Next slide, please. Thank you. In terms of data foundations and evaluation commitments, we found strong technical foundations in all the 62 NAPs that were reviewed. We found that 95% of NAP documents do mention data collection, management, and analysis considerations, indicating strong emphasis on establishing technical foundations for effective monitoring and evaluation. We additionally found that 66% of NAP documents report using or intending to use MEL to specifically track financial flows, fund efficiency, or adaptation expenditures. However, we found weaker evaluation commitments. As we said, we did find that 73% include general commitments to evaluating adaptation actions, but that specific evaluation plans still remain limited. Only 8% of the 62 NAPs that were reviewed mentioned midterm evaluations, and only 7% commit to final or impact evaluations. Next slide, please. So we thought it was interesting to establish a comparison about the September 2025 status of MEL integration in NAP documents, compared with what it was 3 years ago in August 2022. So in August 2022, the sample was 38 NAPs, and we had 47% of NAP documents that included indicators. This year, in September 2025, based on 54 NAPs, we found that 67% of NAP documents included indicators. So that is a 20 percentage point increase in 3 years. Similarly, in August 2022, we found that 65% of NAP documents included a commitment to progress reporting. And 3 years later, that number jumped to 84% of NAP documents that specifically committed to progress reporting, as described in their NAP document. Next slide, please. So based on the report's findings and looking ahead, we propose that countries could strengthen the 6 following elements. First, countries could strengthen institutional capacity by establishing dedicated MEL units or focal points within government structures, as well as improve the cross-sectoral coordination mechanisms to ensure coherent approaches across ministries. They could allocate adequate, sustain, I think a key word is sustain, financial and human resources to sustain these MEL operations over time. We also think that countries could strengthen the impact, vulnerability, risk assessment outputs, integration in their MEL systems and their NAP documents. So to use the impact, vulnerability, risk, and assessment outputs to establish credible baselines and guide the formulation of adaptation objectives, targets, and indicators that are grounded in real-world impacts, vulnerabilities, and risk. We also propose that countries could strengthen the development and the implementation of outcome and impact level indicators to complement existing output level metrics, as we found that there was more output level indicators included in NAPs than outcome and impact level indicators, and that this would enable more robust tracking across the complete results chain, moving beyond activity counts to measuring meaningful change in communities and ecosystems. We also recommend that GESI integration could be strengthened by using, for instance, gender responsive indicators and systematically disaggregating data by sex, age, disability, geography, and other relevant dimensions that are aligned with inclusive MEL principles. We also propose that countries could strengthen their implementation roadmaps for the MEL systems, in that they could develop specific time-bound MEL implementation maps and roadmaps to guide the system rollout, which include clear timelines for data collection, cycles, analysis periods, and evaluation schedules to ensure consistent implementation and accountability. And finally, we propose that countries can strengthen, based on these findings, the way their MEL systems support international reporting obligations and in ensuring alignment with requirements of adaptation communications and the biennial transparency reports to better streamline compliance. So thank you very much for listening to some selected findings from our report on monitoring progress on the integration of MEL systems in NAP documents. And I will, of course, be available for questions at the very end. Thank you. And Geneva, the floor is now yours.
Thank you very much for your great presentation and overview of our key findings, Christelle. So for everybody in the audience, to explore up-to-date analysis on National Adaptation Plan documents, including on monitoring, evaluation, and learning-related statistics, but also other thematic areas that you may be interested in, such as gender equality and social inclusion or financing, you can take a look at NAP Trends, which is a database and platform that analyzes and visualizes the latest information and trends in National Adaptation Plan documents from developing countries. So without further ado, we'll now move to the exciting panel discussion portion, and I'll hand it back to Christelle to introduce our 4 panelists.
Thank you, Geneva. So we will now turn to our 4 country speakers who kindly agreed to be with us today. If all of you could turn on your camera, that'd be wonderful. Thank you. So our 4 country speakers will be sharing insights into how they are developing and implementing their MEL systems in their respective country, that is Haiti, Peru, Thailand, and Zambia. So is Dr. Constantin Joseph with us today?
Yes, I hear you.
Perfect. So Dr. Constantin Joseph is an agronomist engineer who is specialized in local development, environment, and geomatics. And he was the lead consultant for the development of the governments of Haiti's MEL framework for NAP processes, which was only completed last month, actually. So Constantin, the floor is yours. Thank you for being with us.
Okay, thank you. As you know, by 2030, Haiti will have a robust and operational mail system that allows the effective monitoring of adaptation measures, rigorous evaluation of the impact, and the continuous learning to strengthen a national climate. As objective is the plan aim to develop a system of contextualized and gender sensitive indicators for the 4 priority sector. Establish reliable and inclusive data collection and analysis mechanism. Okay. For stakeholder consultation and indicator selection, we have the organization. We have all the stakeholder and all the ministry and AD. And for result of the process, we have the element in the slide. All the element of the for pillar of planning, we have communication and reporting system, institutional arrangement, indicators system, data collection and management mechanism. For life cycle, we have the planning, the data collection, the uh, the quality control, the analysis and estimation, reporting, uh, learning continue, and archiving. Please, the next. For the institutional arrangement, we have upstreaming, the committee of climate change. We have the ministry of the environment to the climate change directorate, and then downstream we have the call there and the university and groups research group. For communication and reporting, we have the report format, the information flow, and the technological tools. And we have the roadmap for the implementation of the mail framework from 2026 to 2030. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Constantin, for this very insightful presentation. And now, if you allow, I have one question for you based on your presentation. If you feel more comfortable answering in French, please do so, as we do have live translation for all our participants. And my question to you would be if you could expand a little bit more on the institutional arrangements that supported mail integration, ou quels dispositifs institutionnels ont soutenu l'intégration du mail, si vous pourriez nous en dire un peu plus. And if you would like to answer in French, I will ask the audience to press the button for translation, please.
OK. Je peux parler en français?
Tout à fait. So if
Okay.
everyone could, who needs it, press on the tab for translation.
Vous voulez avoir beaucoup plus d'explications sur l'implication et la participation des institutions en fait au niveau du développement de ce cadre de suivi, évaluation et apprentissage. C'est bien ça?
C'est exact.
OK. Donc là, il y a en fait le ministère de l'Environnement à travers la direction des changements climatiques en Haïti et en fait qui a été en fait le leader de ce processus. Donc et en fait, il a essayé de consulter les différents acteurs, les différentes parties prenantes qui sont censés impliquer à travers ce processus, à travers cette dynamique de réalisation de ce cadre de suivi et évaluation, et notamment le ministère de l'Agriculture qui implémente des projets également sur l'adaptation des changements climatiques, et également d'autres ministères impliqués dans le processus de planification, notamment le ministère de la Planification et des Coopérations externes. Et après, on a mené des ateliers de réflexion au niveau national et au niveau régional avec les différentes parties prenantes, et notamment dans le sud, dans le département des Nids et également dans le Grand Nord. Et après, on a mené des consultations en vue de réaliser un diagnostic pour savoir ce qu'on a comme base en termes de suivi, évaluation et en général et de suivi, évaluation et relatif en fait au changement climatique. Après, on a mené également des consultations sur le choix des indicateurs et en fonction du contexte du pays et des régions et au niveau desquelles on a réalisé ces ateliers de consultation. Et après, on a fait également euh, un, un benchmarking pour pouvoir évaluer et s'inspirer des travaux qui ont été réalisés en fait, dans ce sens au niveau d'autres pays et quasi similaires avec Haïti. C'est un peu ça. Et après, on a rédigé les rapports en fonction de ce on a eu au niveau des ateliers là et en fonction de ce qu'on a pu tirer des travaux qui ont été déjà réalisés dans ce sens. Merci.
Okay, merci. Thank you so much, Constantin. This was very insightful, and I see that some of you have other questions for Constantin, and there will be a Q&A at the end after all of the four speakers have spoken. So thank you. Now we will move to our second speaker, Señor Luis Efren Roque Salazar, who is the specialist in investment for climate change in Peru's Ministry of Environment. And if I'm not mistaken, Senor Salazar will be delivering his presentation in Spanish. So if I could ask those of you who need it to also press on the translation button. Thank you. Luis. Sí.
Muchas gracias, Cristel. Muy buenos días con todos. Como dijo, mi nombre es Luis Roque. Trabajo en el Ministerio del Ambiente acá en Perú. Entonces voy a presentar un poco de los avances que tenemos en el proceso de implementación del monitoreo y evaluación y aprendizaje en nuestro Plan Nacional de Adaptación. La siguiente, por favor. El contenido de la presentación. El primer punto es el marco normativo en el cual nosotros a nivel en nuestro país, en Perú, tenemos un marco normativo que está dado en la Ley Marco de Cambio Climático, donde específicamente nos dice que en el artículo 32 justamente la creación del sistema de monitoreo para lo que son las medidas de adaptación y también mitigación, donde una parte, un componente, y también este marco normativo nos dice que el seguimiento de las medidas de avance, de la implementación de las medidas de adaptación y de sus condiciones habitantes, ¿no? Así como la evaluación de las acciones y resultados obtenidos. Next, please. Tenemos el sistema de monitoreo de construcción, pero temporalmente nosotros venimos haciendo uso de unas fichas de acción climática. Este diseño del modelo del diseño de las medidas, del sistema de monitoreo y evaluación de las medidas de adaptación, está basado en la cadena del valor público, ¿no? Donde en la cadena del valor público, el primer eslabón tenemos que ser insumo, el proceso, producto y resultado. A nivel de insumo, nosotros tenemos las condiciones habitantes, que son las que habilitan la implementación del proceso de las medidas de adaptación, las cuales gatillan, ¿no?, la obtención de los productos, que son conjunto de medidas de adaptación empaquetadas, y este conjunto de productos nos va a dar nos va a permitir alcanzar el resultado, que es el objetivo que pretende alcanzar nuestro Plan Nacional de Adaptación. Y en esta cadena de valor nosotros tenemos insertadas, hemos definido un primer proceso de monitoreo que se da a nivel de condiciones habitantes, eh, sí, condiciones habitantes, medidas y lo que son los
Oui.
productos, y lo que son el proceso de evaluación a nivel de productos, y también un tercer punto de evaluación es la evaluación de resultados, que lo hacemos una vez que se ha alcanzado o cuando tenemos que medir el alcance del objetivo de la cadena de valor. Siguiente, por favor. Next, please. Bien, entonces esta el diseño del sistema de monitoreo y evaluación está basada en el ciclo del monitoreo y evaluación que hemos definido acá en nuestro proceso, en la cual abarca lo que es un proceso de planificación, donde se planifica cada año el conjunto de medidas que se van a implementar por cada entidad y que van a asegurar un recurso para su implementación. Para luego de esa planificación pasamos al proceso de monitoreo, y ese proceso de monitoreo se hace a través de uso de indicadores de desempeño, indicadores de las mismas medidas. Estos indicadores pueden ser de eficiencia, economía, y también sacamos un proceso de aprendizaje en este proceso para retroalimentar el proceso un tercer proceso tenemos la evaluación, que también punto de medición de indicadores basados en economía, eficacia, eficiencia, la pertinencia, la sostenibilidad, y concluye en un conjunto de aprendizajes que retroalimentan el proceso de implementación de las medidas y el proceso de planificación de las medidas de adaptación. Entonces, este es el ciclo de monitoreo, que, como ven, es un ciclo continuo, ¿no?, que nos permite retroalimentar y generar aprendizajes a cada ciertos procesos y cada cierto tiempo, en la cual se mide la implementación de las medidas de adaptación. La siguiente, por favor. Y bien, entonces ese ciclo de monitoreo y tener en cuenta la cadena del valor público nos ha permitido aterrizar en el diseño de estos cinco módulos que están en la parte central, donde tenemos unos proveedores que alimentan información, que son los actores públicos, son los sectores nacionales y también los gobiernos subnacionales, ¿no?, que cargarían al sistema el avance de sus medidas, mapas de riesgo climático, ¿no?, recursos financieros que están asegurándose para la implementación de las medidas, y estos se cargan en los cinco módulos que, que tienen, por ejemplo, en el módulo está el módulo de planeación. El segundo proceso, módulo, es el monitoreo en sí mismo de las medidas de adaptación, de la implementación de las medidas. Y un tercer módulo, que es la evaluación de mediano y largo plazo, que hemos denominado, y esto tiene como un módulo central, transversal, que es del riesgo climático, que alimenta a los otros, a los tres primeros módulos que les he mencionado, porque ahí está establecido lo que es el riesgo a nivel territorio, a nivel nacional. Y estos interaccionan entre sí para generar un aprendizaje continuo y me generan una salida que es un reporte transversal para los diversos usuarios que tenemos a nivel nacional, eh, dentro eh, de Perú, y a nivel internacional, como es los reportes entre la Convención Marco de Naciones Unidas. Eh, este es el modelo conceptual. Siguiente, por favor. Next, please. Bien, entonces acá tenemos una muestra del reporte que nos estaría generando este sistema, ¿no? Tenemos, por ejemplo, que nos va a botar el, el- 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 el módulo de riesgo climático, un conjunto de mapas en diferentes escenarios, un mapa de riesgos alta, ¿no? Con los riesgos que se tienen extintos, un movimiento, nos debería salir el avance con diversos indicadores que estén en la parte superior. Eh, ¿no? Tenemos diversos indicadores que nos dan a conocer el avance de las medidas, el número de medidas implementadas, recursos financieros que se han destinado a implementar, ¿no? Tales medidas, y, y cómo va avanzando el nivel de daños, lesiones y pérdidas, que es el indicador que nos permite medir cómo estamos.
So it seems Luis may be
Componentes de.
having. Oh, okay.
Todavía lo único que nos queda mencionar es que tenemos pasos para seguir avanzando en este proceso. Es que tenemos un primer paso, es culminar con la implementación de este sistema, que ya está en fase de diseño y programación. Y el segundo paso es la generación de las capacidades necesarias a nivel de gobierno central y gobierno nacional, y para un tercer paso,
Luis.
¿sí?
Sí, ¿estás con nosotros? Ah, sí, vale. So-
Sí, ya había terminado, si me
okay,
escuchó, no
muchas
sé.
gracias. Thank you so much to Luis. Sorry, it seems that maybe the connection was a little bad, a little bit bad at the end. So I will now direct a question at Luis. Luis, tengo una pregunta muy breve para usted, si me lo permite. Y puede hablar en
Sí,
español.
claro.
Todo bien, sí. ¿Qué evidencias o lesiones ha generado hasta ahora el sistema de MEL en Perú? ¿Y cómo han informado las decisiones o los ajustes en la planificación e implementación de la adaptación?
Una de las hallazgos que nos ha permitido ver es que algunas de las medidas de adaptación que se habían diseñado inicialmente en territorios que tal vez no son muy vulnerables al cambio climático, ¿no? Y otras medidas también nos han permitido conocer de que tal vez esas medidas no sean medidas de adaptación, sino más bien acciones, acciones que se denominan acá condiciones habitantes. Entonces, eso, por un lado, nos ha permitido conocer, perdón, ajustar, disminuir el número de medidas de adaptación que inicialmente, por ejemplo, en el año 2021-22 teníamos cuando se elaboró el Plan Nacional de Adaptación, o lo que se llama el NAP, alrededor de 92 medidas. Después se hizo un ajuste a 84 medidas porque algunas de ellas eran pues más que todo. Y otro, por el otro lado, es el conjunto de medidas que nos dan la sensación de que no están muy afectos al cambio climático. Introducir justamente el cruce, el cruce de la ubicación, de la localización de estas medidas en los riesgos por el cambio climático. Eso un poco para medir la eficacia, ¿no? Que vamos a, ahorita si no ya lo hemos detectado, pero lo tenemos que estén ya, digamos, generarnos, pero a nivel de, digamos, no interactivos, lo tenemos, digamos, impresos, ¿no? Y ese sería un paso posterior que nos permitiría justamente mejorar la eficiencia y eficacia de estas medidas y sobre todo darle un mayor enfoque o una mirada más territorial. ¿No?
Muchas gracias, Luis. Muchas gracias. Thank you so much for these great insights from the government of Peru. We will now be moving to our third speaker of our panel, Ms. Monchalus Pitin Sinchuchai, who is with us today from Thailand. She is an environmentalist from the Department of Climate Change and Environment in the government of Thailand. Welcome, Mrs. Monchalus. The floor is yours.
Yes, thank you. And good day, everyone. It's a pleasure to join you today from Thailand. My name is Monchalas, and today I will briefly share Thailand's progress on adaptation, monitoring, and evaluation. Next slide, please. Okay, so this one show you about the Thailand National Adaptation Plan, or we call NAP. For Thailand, we separate the sector into 6 sectors. Include the first one is water management. Second one is agriculture and food security. Third is tourism. Fourth is public health. Fifth is natural resources, and the last one, sixth, is human settlement and security. Next, please. This slide shows you the process of M&E. We follow adaptation committee, but we add cultivating climate change awareness into the process because we think about building awareness is very important. Next. As adaptation is an evolving and interactive process, so MEL plays as a critical role. Thailand MEL system is designed to align with global frameworks such as Paris Agreement, the Sendai framework, and also SDG, while also building stronger link between national and local implementation. Next, please. One important success is that our department, DCCE, as the national coordinator, has signed MOU with the agency responsible for its SNAP sector. This helps us work together more smoothly and make it easier to get the data that we need for M&E. Next, please. And this, in December 2024, Thailand has already submitted our first BTR to UNFCCC, and this represents a major step forward in transparency and demonstrates our commitment to the international cooperation. Next, please. And Thailand has adopted best practice to enhance potential. This demonstrates progress in implementation with case study from Thailand encompassing multiple relevant fields. Next, please. So we have monitored and evaluated the result in the form of project or the activity of a sector and cost costing. Like we find the best practice from pilot area. Yes. Next, please. And not only we focus on just a pilot area, we have already also do the M&E at the provincial level. Next, please. This slide shows the key approaches and success factor behind the working. We rely on local observation and traditional knowledge, as well as the loyal initiative of King Lama IX. We also use appropriate technology and climate data to support better planning. In addition, area-based management agreement and strong collaboration have been essential to making the adaptation successful. Next, please. And for display podcast, key gap remain. The first one is coordination across agencies still lack clear responsibility. The uneven progress across sector. The budget constraint limits wider implementation. The incomplete indicator and data accessibility challenges, and the limited public understanding of climate change adaptation. Next, please. And for the requirement and way forward, we have identified several priorities as raising public awareness, technology transfer, policy development. Next. And also capacity building, mobilizing funding and investment, and also climate change adaptation at the national and local level. Next, please. And Thailand is now moving towards establishing a comprehensive national M&E system that supports evidence-based adaptation planning across the country. This system will greatly support our ability to track progress and assess the effectiveness of climate change adaptation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Monchalus. And if it is all right with you, we will keep your question for the general Q&A at the end to allow more time for it. So thank you so much for all these great insights. Now, with no further ado, we will move to our fourth and last speaker of today. Mr. Eric Mewa is the Principal Climate Change Officer in charge of mitigation actions and programs in Zambia's Ministry of Green Economy and Environment. And if I'm correct, he will be speaking with no slides. Is that correct, Mr. Mewa? The floor is yours.
Thank you. Am I audible now?
Yes, it's your turn if you would like to take it.
Thank you. So I will speak about our monitoring, evaluation, and learning. So we developed this one to be a comprehensive approach to track progress, to evaluate results, and to facilitate learning in terms of climate change adaptation efforts. The government here has been very categorical to say that learning must trigger action. Okay, there has been so much learning, but no much action. So we need to tailor the learning part of it to trigger action at individual level and community level and consequently at national level. So our objectives, the objectives of our MEL or monitoring, evaluation, and learning was one is to improve decision making. Okay, and we wanted to inform policy and planning, but informing this with evidence, not just informing them from without. So we wanted to inform them by providing evidence. And during the process of the NAP, we have been developing briefs which are sector specific, quite concise, so that we inform policy and planning. The second objective was to enhance accountability. So we wanted to track progress, and not only tracking progress, but also to evaluate the outcomes. And the third one was that I wanted to promote sustainability. So we're talking about long-term climate resiliency and adaptation. So these three anchored the development of the monitoring, evaluation, and learning. So the MEL has been developed in line with the country's 8th national development plan. So the country has these development plans, which run for 5 years. The 8th national development plan is ending this year, and we are now revising to have the 9th. So we hope that even the 9th will be able to have the framework anchored therein, because once it is anchored there, for example, indicators are anchored in that NDC, in that national development plan, then evaluation is very easy. So what are the components? If you had time to interrogate this, like I said, is aligning indicators. And this followed the synchronizing performance indicators. Like you said, with the indicators, we were talking about performance indicators across national policies. And also, like I said, to put them in the National Development Plan and also our NDC. The second one was the second component is subnational involvement. So we developed the framework starting at subnational. And in my country, when we say subnational, politically, we mean the lowest at a ward level. So we have a ward, we have a district, then we have a province, then we have a national. So we went to ensure that we made sure that we ensure development has taken into account the subnational level engagements. Capacity building. So this one is basically enhancing skills and knowledge for effective MEL system operation. So we have this system, but how do we make it operational? Do we have the capacities at the district level, at a ward level to make it operational? Then the highlights, if you allow me, like I said, was a multi-stakeholder engagement. So this involved government agencies, the civil society, private sector, international players. This was just to ensure that the framework takes a comprehensive approach. I've talked about capacity building, so I won't repeat. The other one is aligning indicators. So we have 9 priorities, 9 sectors identified in our NAP. So now it was very important that we align these indicators across national processes and to ensure effectiveness. So some of the things we can talk about and some of the challenges and lessons learned. The first challenge, colleagues, was, remember we talked about having the MEL, which can inform policy, which is evidence-based. But the challenge then came on when you look at data availability and the quality of the data. So ensuring accurate and timely data remains, and it was a challenge to ensure that we get quality data, which will then inform the policymakers and those. Then coordinating and collaborating. So fostering effective collaboration among stakeholders is crucial. And in Zambia, like my colleague mentioned, the other presenter, we also have multi-layer coordination of climate actions. So we have at the highest level, it is known as the Council of Ministers. That level is chaired by our country vice president. Then we have at another level where we have permanent secretaries. Okay, so across all the sectors. And at the lowest level, we have what is known as the Technical Committee on Climate Change. This now brings in all the possible actors who come together and are able to discuss and chart the way forward in climate change. So that kind of framework really helped. The other challenge was to ensure that the MEL is adaptable and flexible. Because we know that for the fact that climate change actions, climate change effects are not just static, they keep on changing, dynamics change, country priorities change, but then how do you make it flexible and adaptable enough? So the other one was to ensure that the was not really a challenge per se, but maybe a good practice was that when we involve the people at sub-national level, we therefore ensure that we get the buy-in from those communities so that they own the framework and they're able to say, wow, this one represents our interests. I don't have much to say. I'm just fitting in for a colleague, Mr. Gasandavunda, who does most of these adaptation issues. Myself, I'm in mitigation. Thank you very much for this.
Thank you so much, Herrick. And that wraps up our panel discussion portion. And I am seeing a lot of great questions coming through the chat. And we thank you so much for sharing them. And we welcome the participants to connect directly with the NAP Global Network or the speakers to ask further. But unfortunately, due to time constraint, we will only be able to choose 2 questions to ask our panelists given the time constraint, and then we'll have to wrap this up. So the first question we would like to ask the panelists, perhaps one of you or 2 of you can give a quick 1 to 2 minute response. There are a couple questions on indicators, whether you can give specific examples of indicators and specifically how they relate to the global goal on adaptation and a recent selection of 59 indicators. Does anyone want to take up this question?
Can I give it a try?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so for us, one of the milestones of our NAP process was to develop indicators. And you might recall that mitigation has normally taken an upper hand over adaptation because we did not have indicators. In mitigation, they'll say so many what done. But in adaptation, it was much easier. But what we did was it was not very difficult to have indicators. So in the tourism sector, for example, they say so many numbers of boreholes sunk in a national forest, which dries up. So that becomes an adaptation indicator. So really, these indicators must speak to a sector and must be quantifiable and be measurable. That's why we now were able to get these indicators and put them in our monitoring, evaluation, and learning. I hope my colleagues can supplement now.
Thank you very much, Herrick. Would any other panelists like to add on? Maybe a quick sentence or two to add on to this question?
Yes, so I maybe can share about Thailand for to choosing the indicator. Also, Thailand we use a simple and practical approach. We choose the indicator that met our national context and the data we already have. If an indicator was too difficult or needed new data, we start with an easier version first and plan to improve it in the future. Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much. And a final question that we'd like to ask the panelists. What systems or processes does your country currently use or plan to implement to ensure that government departments and ministries comply with the submission of necessary information on their adaptation actions or indicators? And a couple I guess participants also asked about subnational mechanisms and how they can be incorporated into the MEL system on adaptation.
S'il vous plaît.
Oui, Constantin. Alors en fait, la question, un membre de l'audience voulait savoir comment Haïti allait s'assurer que tous les ministères allaient fournir les données nécessaires. Est-ce que vous avez mis en place un mécanisme pour ça?
Oui, effectivement, dans le cadre du développement de ce cadre, donc nous avons prévu en fait l'établissement d'un réseau national de collecte des données pour pouvoir alimenter en fait le système de suivi et évaluation et à travers en fait ce dispositif. Donc on va collecter les informations au niveau de chaque ministère concerné par l'adaptation. Dans l'ensemble, à travers tout, à partir de tous les parties prenantes qui sont censées fournir des informations pour alimenter ce cadre.
Thank you so much, Constantin. And I see your colleague. This is Dr. Gertie Pierre, who is the director of the climate change direction at the Ministry of Environment in Haiti, has her hand raised. Would you like to come in, Gertie?
Thank you, Crystal. Just add something is that when we are making any consultation like that, as you know, Haiti is favorable for adaptation and climate change because of the level of vulnerability of the country. So is that the first thing is put all of stakeholders on the same table, like ministry, the NGO, or either the partners as a UN agency that working in Haiti. So in order to have the same word, what we want to do, and then go with the technical group that we have and either technical group on adaptation and climate change, technical group on mitigation, whatever, to see and then to have better data. And then also they can saw what the work that we are making. And then so we can take together these work in order to identify the better indicator for the consultation. So this consultation and MEL was very participative and inclusive with all stakeholders in Haiti that we know that adaptation is very important for us, but we need to identify all of this indicator in order to align with the GGA that we are in the negotiation right now under the UNFCCC. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup, Gertie. Merci beaucoup, Constantin. Thank you so much to all of our panelists and speakers. With that, it is time for us to close the webinar, and we will be sharing the recording and presentations. I saw multiple comments asking for the slide deck. We will be sharing all of that on the NAP Global Network website, and we look very forward to continuing this conversation with all of you. If you have any questions that we weren't able to cover today, please feel free to contact us at the email address for the NAP Global Network, which will be in the chat box. We also have the QR code that links to our report that was launched today on the mail in NAP processes. So feel free to take a scan and check out the detailed statistics, analysis, and recommendations of the report. Thank you so much again. Have a great morning, evening, rest of your day to everyone.